gears to the other side of the coin when you're evaluating brands and you're like, oh man, this is like such a cool brand. I think this one's us. And you like find that thing. And you're like, oh, maybe not so much. What are those things? We'll start with Andrew this time and go the other way around.
Yeah, I think, like, I guess we can kind of work down the flip side of some of the stuff that we talked about, but certainly, when we dig into reviews and there's a lot of evidence that those reviews aren't real and the
Mm,
adjusted score is not what we expect and the volume's not there. That's tends to be a pretty big red flag for us because again, our whole approach and thesis comes from the standpoint of having great product, which we believe is reflected in honest reviews. So that's something that's usually a pretty big red flag for us.
okay, fair enough. Well, we can't do like doesn't have brand magic. You got to come up with something. It can't be like the opposite of everything. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's like, well, you want good reviews. If it has bad reviews, it's not. Let's not just do the flip side of them. But if you can come up with a couple of other things, Elena, because I'm curious. I don't know. There's some things, and
Yeah.
if you're going to give me a chance at the end as well, there's the ones that I always think about that are like, oh man, like no, no, no. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just not having strong differentiators is always like
Hmm.
a red flag for me if there's a ton of Me Too products. So that's something that, we're always looking at like what are the top features and what are the top benefits for the customer and how are they different from the competitive set. And so that leads to a really interesting story. And so sort of backing out from there, not having a differentiated product would be, for me,
Yeah,
a
I
red
love that
flag.
one. I mean, again, you can have a really successful Me Too type product in business. I just find that that
Hmm.
space is getting more and more crowded very quickly. Competition's coming in and drive
Hmm.
price down quickly. I think it's a bad investment. I mean, congratulations if
Hmm.
you built the business around that, and you probably are picking a good time to sell. But the more discerning buyer, I think, would punt on that one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And isn't is inconsistent with our ethos of really looking to build
Yeah.
long-lasting brands, right? And so again, we're sort of all in that mindset.
Okay.
So
Excellent. Andrew?
So I mean, we look at like unit economics a lot, and I think are wary of, and it's a red flag for us if when you get down to the margin dollars and what's trending with marketing, freight, et cetera, if there's just not enough room to support, the business on a unit basis, that's a huge red flag for us. So we spend a lot of time looking at that.
Yeah. Numbers are so important. We stress this so much. I mean, if you don't have good margins, you don't sustain periods like this. I mean, like you
Yeah.
just be up like, there's a
mhm,
lot of companies, unfortunately, probably are going to just ultimately just go out of business right now. They can't absorb the price increases from manufacturers, the increases in freight prices, the delay in shipping, which cause you to have more inventory on your balance sheet, which has a cost to it of some kind, and the increased fees at the port, et cetera, et cetera. That just erodes margin. So, I mean, what are you guys looking for, in terms of a range at the net margin level that appeals to you?
I mean, and it really varies by category, but I would say we're typically looking, if you're talking sort of like SDE margin, is that
Yeah, let's use
unit
that one.
economics?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so we're typically looking at like, you know, 20% would be sort of a floor,
hmm,
and we look up from there.
yeah. And it's in our experience, it's been hard to eclipse 20%. I think that, but like I think for us when we're looking at things and thinking about our businesses, like the absolute floor is 10%. If you're doing anything underneath that, you're wasting your time and money, and you
Yeah.
can't absorb any type of challenges. But we really shoot for 20%. I find that to be, at least in our experience, kind of the sweet spot, because I feel like if you're over that, you're probably not spending enough on marketing, or you just happen to be really lucky and be in a business that just has stupid margins, which is good for you, obviously.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why, like I said, I would say we sort of tend to be around 20 on average. Some categories are lower. And then, you do find the categories and the businesses that are higher than that. And to your point, it's either an opportunity to drive growth through more aggressive and more sophisticated marketing, or if we believe it's defensible, that's always better than a lower margin.
Right,
So
right,
we certainly look at both those two things. And I think it's increasingly important in the context of what you and Elena were just talking about, where, if you're in a category that has, 50 of the same product and it's a Me Too business, and you're starting to see, suppliers selling directly based on a production cost instead of a wholesale cost, you're really in trouble in those categories in a situation like this, because there's no headroom to move price, or less headroom to move price to absorb some of those increases. So I think it's just, coupling the differentiation of the product with a healthy enough margin is, the right recipe for us.
Yep. All right, Elena, your final answer.
No pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely like building off of what you were talking about earlier, lifetime value, of course. Like we're definitely looking for what do community building efforts look like around this? How are we going to get that second purchase? How are we finding an opportunity to build relationships with customers? And so, depending on the category, there could be, from my side in marketing and content building, like that's obviously the more exciting side of things, right? And so, always looking for opportunities to create that lifetime value and making sure that this is like really a brand that's going to last. And I guess, on that same note, on the flip side of that same coin is making sure that it wasn't a result of a COVID spike or highly seasonal or something that we're going to see a downturn and it's sort of already hit its prime, and that we're on the other side of that.
Very good. And then for me, since you were allowing me to answer one of them, if I'm evaluating businesses, which we do a lot, we been buying brands ourselves. Man, I really get weary when I see any black hat tactics. It just makes me run for the door. You just never know like what's going to happen 6, 12, 18 months down the road when Amazon or whatever other thing might bite you in the rear end happens. And you just can't take that chance, right? I mean, you're buying a business typically with debt of some sort. And, this is a binary thing, right? Like Amazon, your account's either open or it's not. And so like if they decide that you've done something black hat 6 months ago and they whack you, I mean, you just can't service your debt. And I just feel like you can't take any chances there. And so we do our best to evaluate everything that we possibly can to see if any of those things are happening. Sometimes it's hard, but there's a lot of things you can do by looking at, first of all, just asking questions. A lot of times the owners are pretty straightforward and honest with you. They'll tell you about all the things that they're doing and they're proud of it. And you just don't act like that was the thing that like killed the deal. But there's other things you can do, like to look under the hood. Like you were talking about, reviews is a great place to start. Some account analytics stuff, like when session percentage or purchase conversion rate gets so high, it just that there must be some sort of like search, find, buy, or rebate type thing, or some other thing going on to drive the volume. Just makes me super, super nervous. And so for me, that's like by far and away the biggest red flag and turnoff.
Yeah, we 100% agree. To the point that it didn't even occur to us to mention it.
Right.
It's just like table.
Well, I just think that it's it's so what's the word I'm looking for? Like just it's everywhere right now. I mean, it's yeah. Thank you. I was just I'm telling you, man. Like I was talking to you guys before recording the podcast. I had a long night last night, so like my brain's still not functioning. It wasn't bad. I wasn't out drinking, everybody. I was out playing poker, which is I guess just as bad. Just another vice, but yeah, it's still not thinking as clearly as normal. But yeah, it's just everywhere.
Things, though,
Don't make. Well, I mean, I don't know about that. Sometimes it can work out well. Sometimes it can be bad, but. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's just a lot of people that have, unfortunately, I mean, the problem is like when everyone's doing it, it becomes difficult not to do it yourself, right? And it just like, and it's, I can speak for myself. Like it's been very frustrating watching all this stuff happen around me. And then I know that if I'm going to compete in the same way, I have to kind of do it. But then I think of my team, and I think of, I'm a little bit older now. I think of the Google penalties I've gotten and like how I felt in that moment when I woke up in the morning and my 6-figure or 7-figure business went to 0 overnight because like I typed in my brand name and Google's like can't find it because they whacked you so hard. And I don't want to go through that with Amazon as well. And the other thing is, the thing that's different than when I was doing the Google and search engine game, which we still do. If you're an affiliate marketer, you get to keep all the money you already made. Right, so it's not like as bad as those feelings were. I didn't have $1 million of inventory in a warehouse that I can now no longer sell, and so I think the stakes are even higher. And so for us, we've just steered clear as much as we possibly can of all of those activities. I mean, we definitely have tiptoed in a few things here and there just to it's tough when you're running a podcast in the community and people are asking you questions about what works and what doesn't. So I've done some research just on a small level to kind of know the answer and understand, but then you're just not done it on any type of scale. Because I just feel like you're creating such a easy to figure out big data solution, right? Like if Amazon were to run some sort of algorithm or query on this, and you're like 6 standard deviations from the norm of reality, which can happen really quickly, you're obviously doing something wrong. Like this stuff doesn't happen in reality.
Yeah.
Like you don't have people just searching for baby stroller, going down to like position number 17, buying it and not looking at any of the other results. I mean, like that's so easy to track, like when you're doing like a search, find, buy, or any of the other black hat tactics. And I just think that it's so unwise to do this stuff. Like, I mean, Amazon just kind of went through a sweep recently as we're recording this, where they have kind of come out and said now that they're going to be more aggressive with this. And I just, again, wouldn't want to buy a brand that has left any of these footprints.
Yeah, we feel the same way. And I mean,
Yeah.
it maybe will sound kind of folksy or unsophisticated to say it this way, but I think, the team that we're building, we really think it's important to do things in the right way. Like, winning at all costs is not interesting to me, frankly. I think like winning in the right way that creates real customer value, and increases the amount, sounds silly, but increases the amount of like happiness in the world. Like that's what we want to do. And part of the happiness is, getting great products into customers' hands with brands that make them feel better, about that purchase than even they would have otherwise. But part of it too is thinking, to your point, I think a lot about my team and their experience and how are they motivated and what do they feel good about and not good about. And so, we really try to do things in the right way. And I am happy. I'm not happy that it's happening, but I'm happy to hear you echo sort of our frustration that, it's sort of like, I hate to use this example, but like doping and cycling, it's like there's the incentive and the technology to do it will always outpace enforcement. And so it really is up to, individuals to choose to be good actors. And we believe that, you can still create and compete. You can create a quality product and brand and compete effectively without doing those things if you're focused on product and on brand. And sure, like maybe if you did those things, it would have ended up being a little bit bigger, but like we'll trade satisfaction and enjoyment of the journey to get there, for like that, little bit of incremental, that maybe could have happened if we did this thing and, it never came to light. So we're 100% on the same page. And as Elena said earlier, that doesn't jive with our ethos, in terms of building things that people love, because at their core, like all these black hat tactics, are just designed to trick an algorithm into showing a customer a product that the customer hasn't indicated through their, that customers in aggregate haven't indicated through their behavior is the best, product, for them in that case. So, just, I guess, nice to know that other people are seeing it and frustrated by it and sort of trying to do it the right way as well.